Hi guys.
Hey, Willa.
Yeah, Mark, I think I have a stomach poison, food poison, sorry. And I'm
You
feeling terrible right now. Anyway, I just wanted to say hi to the team.
you've been trying to eat some Kenyan food?
Indian actually.
Oh,
Yeah,
pole.
yeah, Santa. I think it will pass over some time. I'm just feeling not so well. Okay, so I'll let you guys have the call. I'm not sure if these guys are here. Alfaro, Eric.
Yes, Willa, we are in. Sorry for the food poisoning. Uh, we wish you quick recovery. So, looking at the maybe from this end, we have two computers. Okay, so from this end, we have a full house. That is Alfayo, Eli, Eric, and Nick. I see from your end you have Back and Willa. Do you have anybody else on the call? We have Bonnie and Simon is available. So looking at the agenda of the day, the first one is the review of the last week's to-dos. This is the one that was posted Oh, I think I'm looking at this is March 25th. I opened the one that uh, had been posted by the link that has been posted by Willa on the IRC, but seems like I opened the wrong page. Okay, now I am on the agenda. Okay, the agenda of the day. The first item is strategies for dealing with tickets affecting the informatics core teams using MRS despite current developer competing priorities. I would want to maybe take a lead on this. Maybe Eric, would you maybe?
Hi, Willa and Back.
Hello.
Pole. I hope you get better soon. Now, the issue on the first agenda, I think there are some other tickets that are important to other informatics team. A good example is those tickets that are dealing with the reports, but at times we put them on hold because of other competing tasks. So we just wanted to have a way in which we could, or we usually put them on hold because we are thinking of some better solutions or better options. So during our Monday meeting, we agreed that we need to discuss this and see if we could proceed with those particular tickets, even as we get the better solutions. I would just want to get your opinions from Back and yourself.
So are you talking about specific tickets or in general?
Yeah, some of these particular tickets are related to reports that Alpha has been working on.
Okay, basically we had 2 tickets on reports. That is reports, I think 238 and something else. But during our interaction, it was felt like it is not of higher priority from our discussion with the JJ and the rest of the team. So at that point, I think we didn't put much effort in resolving those. So basically, we know, okay, we are not working on them for now, but I believe the reporting team or the M&E team might be waiting for them. So from JJ's perspective is that we are going to adopt a new approach to developing the reports. So it doesn't make sense for us to spend time fixing those issues on the MRS unless it is actually very low priority from our end. But maybe what I would say is from this team, maybe we should try and list down what we think should be the what is the current priorities, and see whether it is actually something that we can fix, or we can slot in the time to work on these other things that perhaps we think they are not high priority on us. Because that is just an example. We have looked at the reports. We have, like, some time back, we also had issues of maybe some other departments, like PHCT had requested us to help them have their instances process data in 1.9. We didn't do it. We've had a number of things that we haven't done, but because basically it is not a higher priority from our end. So how do we deal with those as suggested by Eric?
Well, I think there'll always be bug fixes and issues going on that are not on the kind of primary roadmap. And so, on one hand, I think creating a strategy for, acknowledging that there's going to always be a backlog of things that need to be done that are not high priority, and then coming up with a strategy on how to deal with those. The choices are that they just languish and never get done, that you take a week out of the month every month and just have the whole team work on them. There's a lot of ways to say, I think, effectively to say, we as a development team are going to take a bandwidth, a certain amount of effort, and always keep it around for those that backlog. So how to accomplish that? There's many choices, from dedicating certain days of the week, or saying that there's going to be one person who's working on that at all times, but you trade off who's doing it, to any way that you can say, okay, here out of, say, a month of effort, here is how we are going to get 10% toward this backlog. And the other piece would be to have a more formal method for defining what that backlog is. If it's always a competition between 50 different tickets, and someone knows about 10, and someone else knows about 5, and someone else knows about 15, and there's no coordination between them, then it will always be an inefficient process. I think what I've seen other teams do is to create a kind of a support backlog, and say, we will treat that as a Kanban and basically start knocking tickets off of that stack. And if you want to know where you stand, and if you've got a bug that you want fixed, but it's not a priority for the informatics team, you can look at the backlog and see that you're 15th in the queue, so your expectation that it will be fixed tomorrow is pretty small, versus if you're the first or second in that queue. The other piece would be to consider would be to look at those tickets that are in the backlog and try to give them some estimate of time. so that you have an idea. Is this something that we think would take 15 minutes or 30 minutes to fix, or is this something that we think will take 2 weeks to fix?
Mark,
Sure.
everybody else, I just add on what Mark has said. Actually, last week I had a session with Chris Power regarding the sprints and how to run scrums, and it was really amazing session. And I think at some point I'm thinking of implementing this with the Kenyan team. And in this, I hope Jonathan is going to be the product manager. Where is he anyway? I mean, do you know about his whereabouts?
I don't know if he's in transit yet. He was reaching out to me over the weekend, but I was off the grid.
Okay.
I emailed him last night, but I haven't heard back from him since. So
Okay, yeah.
he might be traveling back yet.
All right. Yeah, anyway, so I was just hoping for him to be the product owner, and then we're gonna have to implement that Scrum thing completely within AMPATH. And basically, because we're trying to build something, what we're gonna be having is sprints that are related to the new product, and also we're gonna have sometimes a side set in a month, at least 1 week. That's how I think of it. I think I'll discuss with Jonathan and see the best way, and the other guys on the team. And then we have like a week in a month to do like the sprint for the support tickets, because I don't want us to mix the support tickets, the bugs, and all these other things with what we're trying to build. So that's one of the things I've been doing through this time, going through the documentation, reading how people are doing scrums and running sprints and all these cycles. So basically, I hope we'll be in position to do that.
The other thing, and we've talked about this before, is that I think, knowing that if tomorrow AMREST goes down or there's some major problem that needs the developer's attention, it helps to know, for the team to know who should be responding to that. And while you could have someone on call for support for a week or for 2 weeks, you can decide what that duration should be. I think it's helpful for everyone if there's clearly someone identified to be that first responder. That helps other people stay focused on their tasks and not be drawn off whenever there's a fire, to put out fires. And what I've seen in teams here in terms of developers at Regenstrief is they will literally have someone assigned to be on call for support for the development team, and they pass that baton between the team, and everyone knows at any point in time who is holding that. Because you can pretend that there won't be emergencies or fires that pop up, but there will be every day.
Thank you. I just wanted to add that apart from JJ, we can also include Boniface on the same, because the two, I think, they play a very important role in kind of just reminding us some of the things that we might have kept off the grid.
Yeah, I think in the traditional kind of Scrum team, there's a project manager, someone who's coordinating the work, and and then a product owner is someone who is more the person who has the vision of what the product or what the solution that's being worked on, what it should look like, or might be the one to make decisions of, yes, we should include this feature but not include that feature. So I think there's probably room for both Bonnie and JJ as contributing to that.
So
So,
just
is there any clarity right now if someone comes in and says, "Hey, we need a developer. The AMRS is down or something's broken and it needs to be fixed immediately." Is there any clarity on who should address that?
I think most of the time, the people experiencing that particular problem will just go to a specific developer. I've seen, for example, uh, Petronila going directly to myself or to Alfio to fix a specific problem. But I think we might want maybe Alfio just to be one of our first responders in some of these particular issues.
Yeah, I would suggest that you can have someone whose job is to be the first responder, but that can also get tiring. So you might want to consider passing that responsibility around over time. It's also a good way for people that are new to learn the system as well as learn the importance of the system. If they're in a room writing code all the time and not, it's easy to be insulated from the fact that patients are being cared for and that what the team's working on is a very real and important system. So it's it's a excuse me, it's a good way for a new developer also to see different aspects of the system. They may not have all the answers immediately, but by being on that front line and trying to address the common problems, they will quickly learn how to help with those.
I agree. I think I like that idea. The best thing we can do it on a rotational basis, that at least all of us, for a given week, somebody else becomes the first responder, and we do that on a rotational basis weekly.
Yeah, so I think that's a good idea, and Mark, we discussed about this, and I actually like the idea, except for the fact that I'm trying to figure out the way we are going to handle this, because the thing is, in most cases you'll find that somebody is attached to some project, and it's like when they are coming to report in something, that person is most likely the one who is capable of handling that particular problem in the least possible amount of time. So it's challenging. It's quite challenging to put someone on rotational basis. Although I think in the long run, maybe it's going to be helpful because, well, everybody is going to learn, and in the process will still be different, but relatively capable of handling different issues. And besides, I guess we can still ask for help if we need some help when doing that. So I was just airing out my views on that.
Yeah, I think that is a good suggestion. My response to that is that I believe the first responder might not be really the person resolving all those particular issues, but whenever he finds that maybe a given issue, or just like you've said, if the issue that is coming up is maybe a project that person X is the one who is much more better to do that particular task, then I believe he can be able to escalate that to that particular person who is responsible for that. So something that I just wanted to add on this particular first issue, are we going to create time to review some of these particular issues and have some time frames when we will work on them and when we should be done with them?
Eric, do you have the issues?
I think the main issues that came up are just those two reporting issues. There might be others, but I think for now are those two reporting issues.
The reports 236 and 237?
Alpha, is that right?
Yeah, that's it. That's it. I think so.
Yeah, well, so first of all, according to Jonathan, who is currently he's the official product owner of whatever we are doing, he doesn't think that is necessary right now. Okay, so until he says, or he says, he specifies something different from that, then we can start worrying about that. But otherwise, we don't need to worry about those figures anymore. And I think the best way for that to go forward with that is to wait for Jonathan and sit down with him and then just give him directions like whether we still need to worry about those things or not. But at this point, he says that that is not important, so we shouldn't worry about those things.
Willa,
Yeah.
pole kwa ugonjwa, lakini I wanted to differ with you a little bit regarding that because to some extent, and this is my opinion, I think it might lead to you guys piling issues that are quite important for some of the teams. So I was just thinking through and figuring how best you guys can be able to like sit down and look at what issues you have that are pending, and the dashboard can be a good use of that because we also have tickets that are not assigned probably. So by doing a review, at least you can have a time frame whereby you reduce that work so that upcoming projects do not keep on being affected by pending tasks. Sometimes you find over time things change and some tickets are no longer relevant. It would be good to also look at those and close them so that users know since you're adapting a new strategy, probably that ticket is irrelevant for now. I mean, I think it will serve us better to help reduce the backlog rather than keep piling it up when we have new innovations and things come on and think that they are not relevant when actually some users think they are quite important and they give reasons for not performing certain tasks due to tickets filed and have not been acted upon. So those are my thoughts on that.
Yeah, so that's why, Bonnie, I agree with you completely. What you're saying is right, and we're not saying that we shouldn't review the tickets. We've been reviewing the tickets, and some of them, I think you've noticed they've been closed, especially,
Yeah.
especially most of them by Jonathan, and I closed some of them too. So the issue here is not whether reports 237 is important or not. The issue here is what the product owner says. Okay, now some team members, these all other team members, my understanding is they will be falling under Jonathan. Now, if they think there's something important, then they have to convince Jonathan that that is important. And Jonathan just says what he has to do is just to tell us, you know what, this is important, you guys will have to do it. So what I'm saying is, JJ thinks that that is not necessary for now. Maybe it is. It depends on his perspective and depending on different things that are going on right now. So, and it doesn't mean that because he thinks it is not necessary to deal with that issue right now, then it is not. If it is still necessary to deal with that issue, what is needed to be done is just to sit down with JJ and discuss how important that issue is to the entire team. And then I think if it is really important, eventually we'll realize that it is important and we will of course focus on those issues. But at this point, that's something that we're trying to get away from. We can't be trying to serve needs of different people who have different priorities. So that's why we want, because you understand that we have to listen to what Jonathan wants, then if he says A is important, we have to do A, then we do A. If he says A is not important, then we don't do A. And if someone else thinks A is important, then they have to sit with Jonathan and clarify how A is important. If Jonathan agrees, then we can go.
Yeah, my thoughts on that are that I would I would try to put a little bit more of not a heavy duty, but a little bit of more formalism around it, and that is, first off, is to create an explicit development backlog queue. So using Jira, create a Kanban with a manually sortable queue of all outstanding development tickets that are not currently in progress or assigned to someone, and then have some regular meeting where it's Jonathan. It's not just JJ, but it's also other folks that are overseeing the project, like Bonnie. Make sure at least one developer is present in that meeting, and on a regular basis look through that queue. And you don't have to go through 5,000 tickets and get them all sorted. You just need to know what are the next top 10 tickets, and at least having that much, then it's clear, and that queue should be communicated not just amongst the developers but to everyone, so that when someone like Bonnie is saying, when they see that their particular ticket they're interested is in the top 3 of that queue, they don't need to worry about running to JJ and trying to convince them of anything. They know that their item is at the top of the backlog. If someone sees that their item is not even in the top 10 or in the top 100 of backlog items, they might want to sit down and talk to JJ and try to convince them of why that should go higher up in the priority. But I would urge you, to get away from the, where right now it's kind of, everybody knows their particular tickets, and there's no clarity on what, there's no explicit place where you can say, here are the, if we were going to work on some, if we're going to spend a week doing a sprint on just general bug fixes, or if we're going to have someone who's, let's say, Alfio is doing support this week, and when he's not putting out fires, he's going to work on a couple of the backlog entries. There's no doubt to anyone which tickets he'll be going to, because there's a sorted backlog, at least of the top 10 priorities as far as bug fixes and things like that. Because right now I don't think there's any, maybe it exists, but when you talk about the tickets that need to get done, how would someone know what are the, if someone had some spare time and was going to try to knock out some of those bugs, how would they know what what are the most important, what's the most important, or what are the most important 3 bugs to get out of that backlog? I don't know how they would find that right now.
Okay, so I think we have discussed that exhaustively. We can move to the next agenda, but I would want to go to agenda number 3 before we come to agenda number 2 and 4.
Are there any next steps for that you would? I think we talked about different ideas of things to do. Are there any actions we want to take in that, or is it just enough to say that we talked about it?
Some of the notes I've taken about that. One is to have a sorted list of backlog tickets. The only thing is when to do that. We have not sorted out that. We also might want to wait for JJ and set up that particular team where we can make sure that some of these particular issues are ironed out and they are prioritized.
Okay.
So agenda number 3, I'm not sure if it's Wheeler or Buck who will take lead on that.
I know we have been tasked with getting CD4 counts from the lab system. I don't know. I'll have to go look at the page. There's a page on the wiki for CD4 count. Let me go look at it just a second. CD4 panel from EID. It does look like Chege answered some of the questions.
So do you have the link for that?
It's if you search the wiki for CD4 panel, it's
There's a lot of things. Just,
there's only one hit for CD4 panel. CD4 panel from EID.
I don't know if you guys have gotten enough information from Chege or you need more. That is something that I can take from this meeting and push forward. So just in case if you need to, let me know.
Yeah, I'm just looking at his responses now. So I just had questions about some of the columns. Sounds like serial number is just a counter, and you can ignore it. Provider ID is the identifier of the doctor ordering the test. So it looks like the location is some list of the location field. AMRS location field has numbers in it from what he sent. It looks like they're selecting from a list, and what the system is putting in their CSV file is a number. We'll have to make sure we know how to translate that into location. Okay. So he had the answers to the questions I had. I'll edit the page to reflect those.
Okay.
I think probably the next step is we need to get a sample of these CSV files. And that's not something if it's patient information, that's not something that we want to share. We probably should have him either have that on the EID machine and have us a way to get to it, or to get it to one of the developers there, and we can maybe put it on the AMRS or something, somewhere where it's safe,
Okay.
where we can see it, but it's behind the firewall.
Okay.
But we've got the description of what the columns are, but I think as you work with medical data, experienced developers quickly learn that there's always a difference between what someone says that their data looks like and what the actual data looks like. So we have I think a fairly good description of what the data is supposed to be right now. So the next step would be to get a decent sample of actual data, and that way we can determine what the possible values are, if it actually behaves, if when dates or certain fields might be optional versus required. If they're showing up null, if they say this field is, if gender is always male and female, and then we find rows where it is empty, We just need to understand what the data look like, and from there, then we should be in pretty good shape to make the rules to import it.
So back once that particular file is uploaded on MRS, we should just let you know where it is, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We just want to, it'd be nice, we don't need to get a week's worth of data, but it would be nice to have more than just one file. It would be nice to have, say, either a day's worth of data or maybe 10 random files out of a week's worth of data, just so that we get a fairly good representation of what the data coming across will look like.
Back, is this something, as you are looking at that, is this something that you'd want to work with any of our team members from Kenya?
Sure. I mean, I think the goal is to understand and describe what the data look like, and we have examples under this EID to AMRS interface wiki page. We have examples of that process for viral load and for the HIV DNA PCR, where we looked at the data, examined what types of values may come, and then anticipated how that should get translated into data within AMRS. Described that, and then once we had that described, then making the rules within Mirth was fairly straightforward. So I think anyone who can help with that process would be welcome.
Alfio
Yes, I wanted to. Okay, so go ahead first.
Alfio says he wants to be part of that particular process.
Sure. Sounds good to me.
Okay, so unfortunately, maybe that is supposed to be delivered as fast as possible, but I would have liked maybe the team also to be involved so that they could just learn how to use maths as well. I'm not sure if Alfio has had an opportunity to learn that.
But okay, we've been using math. We've done a few things, but most of the transformation and what was done by back. So that's why I would want us to be part of it, so that we also do that. Okay, I've been looking at math and see what happens creating channels. We've been interacting with it, so I have some ideas on what happens, what needs to be done. But once we get the requirements, I think back will show us, will guide us through and get it working.
So
Happy to help in any way I can, but also, I agree that the having members of the team there solving this problem, and I can be serve as a consultant is probably a better model.
Thank you, Buck. So once everything is ready, we'll do our next steps of just ensuring we do the description. And I think the entire team would want just to be part of that particular process. So the next item on the agenda is some of the tickets that you have been working on this particular week, and maybe to share some of the difficulties that we have also experienced. So I'll just focus on the blockers, because on the blockers that we have experienced. So maybe I'll start with Alpha if he has any blocker that he has experienced on the tickets that he has been working on this week.
From my end, I don't, what I've been working on, I don't have any blocker. I'm currently looking at, you remember EID